Can somebody show that the NDB thing? We just want to show you. Let's have for a discussion. We picked up a little graph. I want to show you in just a second. The issue really is whether your model is able to adjust for learning, or is it not? I mean, do you have some AI in it so it learns? Because you made a projection, made an assumption that in reality it wasn't the case. So will it continue to do it or will it not? Now this we just picked up from NDB wealth management or something like that, NDB IB or something. Just look at that. Can you see that? I had a printout here. Where is that? What it says, if you look at the red dot, right, which is a January 26 actual 2.1. Okay, the red dot. Can you see the red dot?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you make it a little bigger? And
Red line or the dot?
red line and the dot, which is dot is for today, December 2025. Just there you go. Make it bigger, please, doctor. Some more. Get to the, yeah. Right? Now. Yeah. Right. But now, if you look at the February 24, that's the orange. This is your fan chart midpoint. January 2025, the yellow line, your fan chart midpoint was 5.5. Right? That is where you were supposed to be. But you are at 2.1. If you go to the February 24 fan chart midpoint, you are supposed to be 6. If you go to the August 24 fan chart, you are supposed to be 7. Right? So those you are supposed to be at 5.5, 6, 7, but we are at 2.1. Right? So which to us, just by looking at it, Governor, it seems
Your assumptions are way off.
that's right. Right? So the question is, it is possible, it will happen, we don't know. These guys may not approve, the government may not approve the PUCSL recommendation. But can it happen every quarter after quarter, it is happening. Right? So the question is your model dynamic enough to capture the change in your assumption and the reality? That's really the issue.
This is the very high level technical discussion taking place at the Monetary Policy Committee and Monetary Policy Board. So all these questions have been asked by the expert members here. I think on that basis what we look at is we test assumptions also. We have, for example, every monetary policy round, we have number of scenarios we run. Say, for example, if electricity prices not adjusted, what will be the outcome? The fiscal outcome. For example, if you look at the fiscal block here, the usual fiscal assumption, if you look at last year to this year, 2025, was the 2.3% the primary surplus. The demand coming from fiscal impulse. Actually, now realized is 6% primary surplus compared to 2.3%, which was assumed in the model at that point. So I think there are a lot of assumptions that has not been realized, but we also we certainly sometimes we assume baseline is there. Baseline, if there is a higher increase in global oil prices, what will have the impact? So we look at those things, and on that basis we have to make a judgment there.
Yeah, but then Governor, I can accept your explanation if it was 1 quarter or 2 quarters. It's 6 quarters. And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question is because what about the other issues? I mean, not just inflation, but inflation, for instance, debt to GDP issues, other issues, growth issues, real interest rate issues. I mean, why is interest rates not going down? I mean, should interest rates be this high? What is the real interest rate? I mean, nominal interest rate is what 10%? What is the TB 1 year treasury bill rate? 8.3. Inflation is 2.1. What is the expectation of inflation? 2.3. Let's say 8.3. So that is 6% real interest rate.
Adjusting.
So, I mean, real interest rate of 6% is very, very, very high. I mean, if you look at all our competitor countries, Governor, India, except for India, everybody else is below 2%. Real interest rate. So,
Interest rates, I think here again the technical argument. Real interest rates is computed as a forward-looking inflation. versus current
expectation, no? Correct.
Expectation, no.
Correct.
If the target given to us is 5%, that is
Yeah.
expectation.
Yeah, but then that is exactly the point. But we are not able to meet the target of 5%. We are not likely to meet the target of 5% for the next so many quarters. Because your short-term expectation is 2.3, 2.4, maybe 3%, right? If it is 3% expectation, right? So then, if interest rates are 8.5%, still it is 5% plus, no?
No, but we are talking
Your
here
interest
3%,
rate.
but we are-
Sorry, Dr. Veerakonda
Sorry,
has been
just
raising
to
her
add,
hand.
3% what we are expecting is to proceed that range. But when you look at the projection in the fan chart, it is after that it's going beyond 3% and reaching even above 5%.
Yeah, but the fan chart, I mean, we are looking at the other side, right? I mean, from an investor point of view, from growth, because the discussion we always have, Governor, before you come, is in the committee, is an ideological one. Why is the Treasury Secretary not here? You are independent. Now, the issue is, you come to us every 4 months, but your answers to questions in Parliament, for instance, come to the Secretary Minister of Finance, to the Minister of Finance, right? So there is some sort of disconnect here. So let's keep that ideological discussion separately, because we want to have it at some point in time, right? But as members of Parliament, as people in the Committee on Public Finance, we have some real issues that we need to resolve, right? So I'll give the microphone to Dr. Veerakonda, and I would like to know who is this technical committee, who the technical committee that work on this model of inflation model. Who heads that committee?
It's set up by Director Research is the head of the department. Within that, there's a modeling division. So these are the people working on the model. This has been developed for long period, what they call QPM. It's not the only model. I don't think we rely on 100% the model. The model is the guidance. Any projection, you can't rely 100% the model.
So,
Only the guidance, and then we apply our own judgments based on what we think.
Right,
what
that's
will
why I
happen.
asked early, is it a trend line or is it a model? So when it's a model, there's a beta value to every factor that you put, plus or minus. Government reserves 2.3, government reserves 6.3, there's a plus or minus impact on the model. Then the explanation becomes much clearer next time to say last quarter we assumed 5 variables, global inflation to be this much, exchange rate to be this much, government fiscal rate to be this much, and we inputted 4 variables to the model, and the model gave us this projection. Now we are coming and explaining we are off the projection because the assumptions are off.
No, I think this detailed discussion, if you are interested, we can do. That is the same discussion we are having at the committee level.
Yeah.
No,
So
I
we
mean,
can
this
have
is,
that discussion. If you
Yeah.
are interested, we certainly can do that.
Yeah, no, this is good, because, I mean, one of the things here we do is also for people to understand. People need to be able to make investment decisions for a longer period of time. What is inflation going to be? What are exchange rates going to be? So it is positive that we are having this sort of technical discussion. Why the law says that every member of the Monetary Policy Board must be present at this discussion is because we can ask those people also questions. So we are directing it to the Monetary Policy Board, not the governing board, but the Monetary Policy Board, who I believe are more technically technically competent to, I'm not saying the governing board is not, but monetary policy board's job is that, only that, technical, isn't it? So I would like some comments as to why we are every quarter so far below our expectation or so far off our expectation.
Respond, try and respond. Let me qualify that. First is, if I just look at this as an economist and not from a monetary policy perspective per se, I think the context in which the inflation targeting framework and the targets were set, Sri Lanka went through a major systemic change of 70% inflation and then, squeezing that back in the course of a very short 2-year period. So when we also asked, when the model projections, we use it as a guide to tell us, if we make this decision today, what would be the outcome in 12 months. So there is a 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. I think those scenario settings are there. We spent, I think, a day with the technical team at the central bank to try and understand what is behind this model. And I have, there is a problem of not even having data that will support the setting up of a model that is going to hit targets, because we are looking at relationships that over the last 20 odd years to calibrate this model. We are doing that in the context where we didn't have an inflation targeting framework, where monetary policy was very much more ad hoc. So I think every so often we get updates from the technical team to say that these weaknesses, they are recalibrating and re-examining those estimates that they're getting. They're getting technical assistance also from the IMF to do that. So I would say it is still work in progress. But in a situation where we tend to not have any kind of model or data, I think this is the best that we have, and Central Bank, I would commend them for having put the energy and time into developing this. So we have a situation where with 70% inflation, all of the upheaval, consumer behavior has also changed. And I think that's reflected also in what happened to vehicle imports. I don't think any of the estimates suggested that import demand will be actually twice what was estimated. So we don't have data on how the consumer basket has changed since 2019. So we are again...
That is not our fault.
I know. So what I'm trying to say is, with all of that changes that have happened, when we are looking at the supply side and the demand side, as Governor said, we have a better understanding of the demand side. And to that extent, to keep an eye on what will today's monetary policy decision have an impact on demand side inflation, because that is harder to rein in once it gets out of hand. The missing targets, and these are questions that we also look into. Why have we sort of kept shifting the goalpost, if you like? Some of it is supply side, but my sense is that the major large fluctuations that we've seen in the last 2 years that has disturbed this entire system is now settling. And once we see only 10-12% shifts in fuel pricing adjustments, we are not going to get these major differences between initial assumptions and actual outcomes. It is because we are still sort of adjusting to major changes that took place.
We will. I am not willing to accept that, Doctor.
Are we here to listen to?
Yeah, because just
We are listening to a credible, independent central bank, and are we here to just listen to some stories? We expect. The interest rate should be a base for resource allocation for future investments in the country. It's not targeting just inflation for today, which is off the mark for 6 times. I mean, I've been silent because these are the same things I reflected before, and I like it to come from my colleagues as well. But there's always going to be a monetary policy conflicting with the fiscal policy, and it is happening. Are you telling me we have got to be listening to this and saying you're all on a learning curve for us to be listening?
Yeah,
We're also discerning members that want to contribute.
Yeah, before you answer that question, because that's a broader issue, right? But I want to make two very clear points. And I agree with my colleague. This is no university or school. There is no time to learn. You have to learn fast. I mean, this is a country. This is an economy. Right? I mean, you can't say they're putting in a lot of time and effort. That's not good enough. We have to have research. Just 1 minute, right? And if that is happening because you are missing data, let's fix that. Tell us. Please do tell us. Where are you missing data from? I mean, if you don't have data from the consumer basket, from the Department of Census and Statistics, we will certainly tell them immediately. We will summon them here and ask them to share that data with you. I mean, there is no reason why you should come here and say we don't have the data. That is not acceptable. The third point is we have always commended you and we have always appreciated the fact that you brought inflation from 69.8% in September 22 to 0% in September 23.
So it's like it's a supply side that has done.
Right. No, but then you took up inflation, you took up the policy rates by 800 basis points. Right? You did what needed to have been done, immaterial of what the source was. Now, this is the interesting point, and this is the good discussion that we can have at some point. Even though, right, you knew there was there's a fair impact on inflation from supply side events, right? You still had only one tool that you could have used to bring inflation down, and that was interest rates. And you used it. You used it right. And then you brought it down, right? So now the question is, why is it that immaterial of what supply side may be, why can't you use the tool you have to bring it back? Now, obviously, that means you reduce interest rates. But if you reduce interest rates, what is going to then happen to your reserve building capacity, for instance, right? So there is a balance, right? We understand that and we do appreciate that. However, to us, this looks like not a one-off thing. It looks like a systemic problem with your model.
Also, you mentioned quite forthrightly that the inflation was 70%. Okay, price stability is your the only activity that you've got to do. But where is the price that has come down with 70% inflation? Has come down, but your price is the same. The velocity in the increase of inflation has reduced. But where is the price stability? So, I mean, that is the reason why you all are pointing the finger at the fiscal part of it or the supply part of it, where you are expecting why is the energy going up, why is it not coming down. Now, even your expectation of inflation to go up is bent on the government increasing the electricity prices. That is what was given here. So that's the expectation which is completely outside you all. So in that case, what is the independent role?
If I may respond, I think inflation and price level, everyone knows. Inflation
No,
and
we
price
like-
level are
no,
different
but that
things.
is- that is your
Price level
delivery.
is stable, inflation is increased level of increase in price level.
Price stability
That is
is
a basic
also
thing.
not just bringing inflation down from 70 to 0. It is reducing the prices also must come down.
No,
I
I
mean,
don't
you
think, no.
don't need to be
I
telling
think
us about this. This is the
must,
real life
I think
situation.
this is not the, price stability is not the prices, bringing the prices down. I think that's a very basic thing I won't understand. I'm sure, Chairman, you understand it. Price stability is maintaining low and stable inflation over a period of time, stable basic. That is the basic fact. Everyone knows that. And also from Chairman, your point, when you look at the interest rate policy, I think from the, again I repeat this, from the aggregate demand point of view, monetary policy is right at the right place, the right balance, because economy is growing at 5%. Credit is flowing more than sufficient for economies to grow at this, because earlier after the crisis, baseline scenario was 3% growth. But now we are second consecutive year, this year also there will be 5% growth. That is the capacity that country can go based on the, even if you look at historical basis, the potential growth, I think historical data if you use, around 4.5%. We are growing at the potential now. That is where the interest rates are right place on the aggregate demand point of view. But on the other side, other variables.
Just 1 minute. You're making a very pertinent point. Are you saying there is no gap now, that we are growing at the potential?
Based on our estimate, yes, we are growing at the potential now.
Right.
That's
So-
why we think there's no room
That
for
means
us to reduce further.
that means given the particular interest rates.
Yeah,
But if you reduce interest rates, can it grow further?
it can go above the potential. That could create heating of the economy, and that could create other problems that we have seen several times in the past.
Yeah, but then overheating can't happen before it heats even the bottom
If
of the target.
is
No?
potential 4.5.
So we can go up to 7. I mean, I am not for a moment advocating high inflation. I'm not. Right? Don't take me wrong. Right? I mean, it is always better to have 2% inflation. I would rather you miss the target at the bottom end rather than missing the target at the
Right.
top end. But the discussion here is not that. The discussion is
The
whether
economy
you're getting the model, the ability to predict. That is the question.
Yeah, this is what Dushyant's point also. I think when you develop a model is something you input the historical data for 20 years.
See,
Let me
just.
I think no. The point is not that data is not available. Data is available. There has been a structural change happening in the economy. So that for that to capture, you need to long time series data model to predict. Okay, that's why we can't rely 100% on model.
No, that
Because
is
a
my
structural
point
change
also. I mean,
Governor, I think
there was a
that's
structural
what
shift now in
statisticians
22,
do.
23.
If the last 20 years is off the record, you go into closer models. You try to monitor it very quickly. You enter quarterly data, you enter monthly data, you enter daily data. That is how the models are built. Now the world is sophisticated in modeling things very quickly, fastly using data. It's in 80s, 90s, we used 20 years of data set and, trying to create models.
Honorable
It's-
Minister,
I mean,
that's what we are
can't-
doing, and I mean,
Yeah.
if we are given a day, we can explain all this. This is exactly the discussion that, I mean, like Governor and Dr. Veerakoon said, this is the discussion that we are having at the Monetary Policy Board before making the monetary policy decisions every 2 months.
Yeah, but
So,
but Deputy Governor,
Yeah.
you have to get it right.
No,
You
Honorable Minister, I
can't
think the
continue to
point
tell us
was
that
that
we got it wrong, we got it
the
wrong.
economy has changed, the structure has changed, but we are still relying on the country is relying on the 2019 basket for consumption. I think Honorable Minister also raised a pertinent point earlier.
So just on
2019
that
basket.
point, Doctor,
Yes.
are you telling me you don't have the latest data from census? Even
Honorable
though it is not
Minister, there
publicly
is no,
available.
household income and expenditure survey conducted after 2019. We are relying on the 2019.
But that is
which
wrong, no?
pre-COVID,
But we have done one in
pre-crisis.
2024, no? Well, it should be available to you, no? Even though it is not available to the public.
No, they had just started to collect the new HIES.
No,
Yes.
Dr. Dushni, didn't they do a
Census.
HIS?
They finished the census.
HIS, when was the last HIS?
2019.
Isn't it worthwhile for you to do something on your own, relying on instead of doing it the DCS? Those tests during Anila's time and all, you all did something. Now it is completely done by DCS. I am aware of that, but it is a very sad state of affairs here. To this committee, you are telling me that you are using data from 7 years ago. I am not willing to accept it, Doctor, because because inflation targeting is very important. It's important for decisions to be made.
Not to import, that's the only job they've got to do.
We agree, Honorable Chair, but the thing is, I mean, it's the international best practice that the inflation is computed by an external agency, not the central bank. I mean, it's not for us to, calculate inflation and target the same rate at the same time.
Well, I mean, let's not go there. I mean, we have trust in you. I mean, we are not asking you to manipulate.
I mean,
it.
that's why-
I mean,
that's
come
why
on, please,
governors-
you know,
gov-
we have
Yeah.
a lot more faith in you.
Yeah,
than
Honorable
what-
Chair, that's why Governor said, I mean, we are aware of this fact that the inflation, the consumption basket is probably obsolete. And that's why we are being very careful with what we are doing. So, I mean, like Governor said, credit is growing at a very fast pace. And also, I mean, in Sri Lanka, demand side is not reflected only in credit, but you have to consider the external side also. I mean, the demand pressures could be shown in demand on imports and other
Right.
outflows as well.
Right,
So
right,
we
right.
are-
Is the inflation figure that is coming out truly reflective? If it's not, then you're using some outdated one, and our decisions are completely outdated. If exactly what you're saying.
No, Honorable Member, that's why we are keeping some leeway for that.
No,
So
no, the
what's
member's
the
question
leeway?
is valid, Deputy Governor. He is asking whether then is this the real inflation? Because you are looking at a
You're
basket
saying
of
2%,
2019.
2.1%. Even you said January it has come down from 2.4 to 2.1. Are we completely living in a fool's paradise? In the sense,
This
because of
inflation
outdated
figures, what we are
information.
saying, these inflation figures are based on 2019 expenditure pattern of the Sri Lankan consumer.
Yeah, because
Colombo
what,
consumer.
yeah, no, I'm sympathetic towards you. There is nothing you can do about it. But the reality of the situation is the consumption patterns have changed in the last 7 years,
But Chairman-
particularly after 2022 structural shift in consumption. Right, people have gone to purchase lower quality stuff and various things to manage their cost of living. But I'm going to ask.
Chairman,
wha-
one second. He's not being sympathetic to the central bank. It's to the people that are basically having judgment. The SMEs, the businesses, all are relying on this because we are looking at interest rates, creating an anti-inflationary approach. But we are looking, as I said, to look at this as long-term resource allocations for investments to be coming in, where the interest rate is a key factor.
No, long-term resource allocation is not a function of the central bank. I must tell you, that's
Yeah,
not
but
objective.
interest rates
No,
have been determined by you all now.
we
So if
determine.
you all
inf-
don't, if
we
you all
determine
basically give a high
infl-
interest rate, and if you, in that case, who's going to grow this country?
No, this is the right interest rates based on the monetary stance.
Yeah, that is your
And economy is
perspective.
growing right, credit is growing right, demand is taking place at the right balance. So I don't see any problem with the current interest rate structure.
Okay,
That
there
is
is-
the
there is-
appropriate interest rate structure based on from the demand side. That's exactly what we see. That we can see clearly the indicators of demand side is pretty much in line and consistent with our monetary policy stance and the interest structure.
Yeah, but then the interest rate, what we see obviously is expectation of inflation and the real interest rate, no. So if you really look at our competitor countries, Governor, in real interest rates are less than half of ours. Except for India, like I said, everybody else is below 2%. India is like 2.5%. We are 5.5%. Even if you look at expectation of inflation of 3% for the next, or 3.5% for the next foreseeable future 3-4 quarters, right? So if you're looking at being a competitor, being competitive in the region, I mean, is 6% real interest rate high or not? I think it's a valid question from our point of view, right? But before we go any further, the reason why we appointed people from outside to the central bank's monetary policy board, why we expanded this board, even though I didn't agree personally, you know that this is too big of 12 people. I would like to get the views from those who are outside the central bank. I mean, why did we appoint you? We appointed you because you bring knowledge from the business world, you bring knowledge from other people, universities, right? I mean, this is not a blame game. This is a intellectual discussion as to whether we can better predict interest rates. Inflation rates, right? So in that context, I'm going to ask the professor. Yes, Mr. Ratnayaka.
Thank you, Chairman. I think, well, it's a good discussion, but I know this is a mostly technical. I think we need to, I can remember Honorable Chair himself, yourself mentioned that we need to have a proper discussion on the technical side. I think it is a very good thing to do, because to understand each other what methodologies are being used in central bank in modeling and and also in arriving in inflation numbers. One thing, having said that, so what I'm suggesting is we need to have a proper discussion on that. Maybe in a different time, we give 1 hour or 2 hours or so, sit together and discuss all methodological issues. The reason is that even if in fact, I'm coming from an international experience also, working at United Nations for 15 years, and in fact, I work with number of central banks also. These are what I see. I was the chief economist there. So what I see is also that these are some of the problems that all these, of course, what you are saying, very correct, of course. You want to see the real accurate numbers. But this is not new. Basically, it's all other countries, most other countries that we encountered, they have the same problem. So first thing I suggest is basically have a technical discussions on these various matters. Secondly, I want to say that, of course, you are right with this consumer commodity basket. You see this, as I can remember, if you take the basket itself, it is about 50%, 51%, whatever. It is energy and transport, basically, if you take the whole basket. So it is not...
Food is about 35%.
No, together. I mean, energy and that, somebody can check it. My recollection is that. But what that means is that it is the inflation targeting or levels that we have is highly influenced by that factor. Now we know that we raised that issue in different discussions also. The need to change that basket also. You are correct.
Mr. Ratnayaka, all that is agreed.
Yes.
If we are having an academic discussion in a university.
Exactly.
But it is not. This is a country. We are trying to run a country. Wait.
Yeah.
We are trying to run a country. We want this country to grow. We want growth to improve.
Correct.
We want poverty to reduce. Right? So all that discussion you have somewhere else. And then do what needs to be done after the discussion. Right? If you want to have further discussions, we are willing to do that.
Right.
And that is why we are engaging with you. Right? We are not fighting with you. We are all on the same page. Right? But what we are saying is this prediction has to be better. And I think we all agree. I think you also agree, we also agree. And we are also trying to understand how can we make it better. We are trying to get through to the Census Bureau and direct them to share the data, not with the public, at least with you, so that you have a better understanding of what people are spending. Dr. Veerakorn is shaking her head.
Because we also checked, Chairman, about the HIES, which was due in 2021. It's been delayed. So the last time we checked, we were told that end of this year, they will have the data.
Right. I want Dr. Dunusinghe also to, express his views on this discussion. What we can do.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And I think I agree with the views expressed by our Monetary Policy Board members, Governing Board and the Deputy Governor. In that respect, it is important to understand that the forecast is based on, the forecasting model is constructed based on the rational expectation. Rational expectation in the sense you take past information as well as the information available at present. So that is generally the best practice elsewhere, where that you take both past and the present information in predicting the future. In that respect, it is very important to note that central bank over the years develop different models and then feed information into this QPM model and then try to predict. And along with that numbers, the committee members basically take into account other qualitative information as well. in coming into basically the judgments. And comparing that say midpoint predicted some previous occasions at a given point is not a correct approach. It is like something that you look at from a long distance and then you look it like some object, but when you get closer and closer you tend to see it more clear. So in that respect, comparing that way and coming to a judgment is not the right way. And there are areas to improve certainly, but I think the present model, if we can discuss it in detail, you will get to see that the level of sophistication. Thank you, Chair.
Like to get the views of Mr. Manil Jasingh and Mr. Vikramasinghe also. Anushka has sent a letter excusing himself.
Good afternoon, Chair. No, actually, I think as a governor and all the other monetary policy members mentioned, there is a lot of debate that goes into this whole process. Clearly, the calibration of the model is continuing over time, and that calibration will give us better, how should I say, information to make a decision. But one of the things I have seen even in the monetary board is this energy is a big issue in this whole model. Though in percentage wise you say that, because the quantum of the size of that adjustment, so you talk about 40%, 40% in that bar, but the size of some of those adjustments, like say for 20% or 30%, that has a big impact. So most of the time, what we had discussed is that where we were out of the expectation has been where there has been significant variation in our prediction of energy.
Yeah, Mr. Jayasinghe, let's say that it had a big impact last quarter, right? But you know very well that the electricity tariff is determined for the next quarter.
Yeah.
Right? It is for the next quarter. Next two quarters, next 6 months. So how can you be so much off?
So, Chairman, exactly the point you said, it is there for the future. So we are now trying to target the inflation going forward.
No, we are talking, you missed it six quarters.
No, I understand. So what I'm trying to explain is, when you look at the future, so if we miss a target for the future, it obviously will have an impact on our prediction.
Agree. I mean, whilst agreeing, so then in your model, the sensitivity in fuel is far higher than the demand side adjustment, the interest rate. Because the interest rate adjustment, the fuel beta is outweighing the rest of the combined betas of everything.
No, if I may add, that's an important point. So interest adjustment full impact will take a full impact 12 to 18 months. Well, if you reduce today, it's an immediate impact on the that's a timing is a difference. So that's where the difficulty and also unexpected not increasing or increasing has an immediate impact on the headline current inflation. Whereas the interest rates, if you look at this reduction of interest rates, that's why you see the credit is now picking up after almost 12, 18 months. See that we can see that impact happening with a longer time lag. That's the difference.
Because the thing is this, what you are saying today, in a technical discussion, this team should be able to explain to us 2.6 to 5% that beta change came from an adjustment you did in fuel price, electricity prices. I am being very cautious here, asking the committee to be very.
That's not the only thing.
Try to put it into that context only because.
I agree. This is because for the simplicity.
Because I am pretty sure mathematically it won't be able to prove it.
No, this is why we mentioned. That's why I agree with the suggestion that why don't we have a full session for you to understand what is going in, what are the factors, without having that understanding, just shooting in the dark. And this is a key component. That's why we have been, for anyone, for us to explain simply to a public or anyone who don't have technical knowledge, because we use this significant component as the impact that we are seeing, people can understand.
No, for the
But when
moment,
you-
let's agree that it is, but what I'm trying to say
when
is,
you
it's-
look at the,
if
as
you
I
look-
said, the fiscal stimulus,
Yeah.
that was different from what was expected. And but still, when you factor that in, and if you see the demand side, I mean, I agree, I admit, if there is
there's a negatives and positives.
no, if there is a impact on the economy or the credit or the demand side, if that was different to what was expected, then obviously that's our fault.
Agree.
That's
Agree.
our fault, that we have to admit.
I think maybe then you should have two models, two lines. One is predicting the impact on inflation through the fiscal side. The other line is, one is predicting this through the demand side.
Interest rate, fiscal,
yeah,
and the
convergence is what the final outcome is, so it's quite easy for you to explain next time. This is what we predicted in the model. Sensitivity of the demand side is X plus this. Sensitivity of the supply side is Y plus this. So it's clear for everyone, okay, we got it wrong in the supply side.
No, correct. So this is where I think even discussion at the board, I can say, the near-term inflation, 6-month inflation, if we can share with you, 6-month near-term projection clearly has the assumption on the petrol prices, electricity prices, even these gas prices, all are factored in. So that's easy to predict from current price levels to 6 months, knowing that much more certainty, as he said, you can see the near term, you can see clear. That is much more accurate. But when you go beyond that, any change in next 6 months is not been, assumption has not been validated or realized, then it will basically have impact on the next 12 months also. Then our ability after 6 months, we have to reverse again that one. So this is where the model has, you can, when you have a detailed discussion, you can see the deviation from the short-term, near-term forecast, and also deviation from the medium to long-term forecast, and what are the factors that contributed to, say, demand-side factors, interest rates, the fiscal side, and also the global demand, external side, the export demand, or demand for imports. Those are the other factors. So each and every factor has a different impact on the kind of a timeline of how that's going to impact on the growth and the inflation.
But
Yeah,
Chairman, are we basically being just listening to one side of it? Aren't these things that are the obvious that have not been carried out?
I mean,
Not clear the question.
If that is the case, it's a very sorry state.
no, I mean,
These are not to be told here. It should have been obviously coming to us.
No, I think that's why I said, if that has an impact on the growth or the demand, then obviously that's our fault. But we see it's right in line with what our expectations even 2 years ago. That's where we think our responsibility and our ability to influence overall demand, growth, and inflation, that has been in line. But there are other factors that is beyond our control. Some of the data issues are there. So that is where the deviation coming from.
yeah,
The thing is,